Okay.
So-
Hi everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. We've never done this before. I've spoken a million times, and we've never done this before. So this is really fun for me. Thank you all for being here tonight.
So I assume some of you have probably seen Harley be interviewed before. How many of you have seen Harley be interviewed before?
Some of those people are my parents, so
Yes.
they watch everything,
mine.
and your parents. Yeah.
But a lot of people have seen you probably on, BNN, Bloomberg, MSNBC, the internet. You're everywhere. And you guys are probably used to Harley being asked things about, the stock price or, Shopify, market cap, the future of retail.
It's my entire life.
Blah, blah, blah. We're not going to talk about that tonight. I assume you guys are not here tonight to hear about those things. Am I right? And I'm not Jim Cramer, so I cannot even match him if I tried.
Although Jim Cramer is a great Jewish leader, so I mean.
No disrespect to Jim Cramer, love him. I just think tonight is a little different. So I'm going to ask you really important personal questions. You're probably not used to being asked things like this. Like, why can't you ever find anything without my help? Do any other wives in the room have to help their husbands find things? It's not just me.
I thought we were going to go over these questions in advance.
Okay, seriously. Okay, here's a serious question. Which of our children is your favorite? Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. Speaking of family, can you tell everyone about ours? Our family's pretty special. Can you tell everyone about our family? And how do you bring your passion, which in case you guys don't know, it's entrepreneurship, into our family?
Well, first of all, I have the greatest wife in the whole wide world. She's beautiful and brilliant and incredible. Her name is Lindsay.
Thank you.
But we do take, some of you that know me well, again, my parents and my in-laws and my aunts here, my best friends are in the back over there. Many of you know this, but we take a very entrepreneurial approach to pretty much everything in our life. We are incredibly intentional, and sometimes that leads to things that seem somewhat, I'm not sure, maybe overly scripted. We calendarize almost everything in our life. If you look at my calendar on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, it literally says walk with Lindsay. One of the things that we have found, I think, together is that if we want to live a life with a lot of intentionality and doing a lot of things, there's no way for us to do it if we don't actually diarize or calendarize everything that we do. And I think we put the same intention into hosting a dinner party than we do into, running our respective businesses. And again, I realize that doesn't seem romantic, that may not seem necessarily full of heart, but it does allow us to live a life that I think is incredibly full of the stuff that we value.
Definitely. So I want to ask you a personal question, which is, what is your personal mission?
Well, some of you have heard this before. These are all questions you know the answers to, but I assume you're asking because you're leading me down the primrose path here.
I'd like to know.
Okay. About 5 to 10 kilometers northeast of here is a farmer's market called the Jean Talon Farmer's Market. Are you familiar with that market? Okay. For the last 50, 60-something years or so, there's been a stall at the farmer's market called Le Capitaine. You know that stall? It's an egg stall. And my grandfather, my father's father, ran that egg stall for his entire life after he immigrated here to Canada. So our family, my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. And when my father came here, my aunt was born in Canada, but my father immigrated here in '56 during the Hungarian Revolution. My grandfather had no choice but to become an entrepreneur. He had no money, he didn't speak the language, he had no education. And so entrepreneurship was effectively the only tool that he had available to him. And he wasn't necessarily passionate about eggs, at least you haven't told me he was, I assume he's not, but he was passionate about survival. And I think that is very much in the DNA of a lot of Jews and a lot of immigrants, and certainly a lot of people that come from Holocaust survivors. And people that were in the Holocaust in general. So that's sort of the first sort of pull, is that our family's survival was predicated on this ability to start a small business and build it, and that was the egg business. In 1995 or so was my second sort of pole of entrepreneurship, which is that I'm a year younger than all my best friends, so I went to bar mitzvahs starting when I was 12 years old or so. Jeremy, who's one of my oldest best friends, who's here, his bar mitzvah was a year before me, and I remember it was sort of the first bar mitzvah that I went to. And I remember seeing these DJs on stage at these bar mitzvahs. And can I swear? Okay. They were fucking magicians. In 1 minute, you'd have all these people sitting around eating chicken dinner, kind of like talking and drinking, and like 30 seconds later, you had the conga line with people's ties around their head. And it was so unbelievably interesting that this person behind the DJ booth, using sound and lighting and their voice, was able to change the entire energy of a room of 300 people. And I wanted to be a DJ. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. But nobody would hire me because I didn't know how to DJ, and I looked like I was 8. And so my father, my parents were always very supportive. My father had suggested that maybe I start my own DJ company. In fact, he made me business cards that said Harley Finkelstein DJ. He had made me a number of business cards throughout my life for all my silly businesses, which at the time seemed fun and in hindsight now seem incredibly meaningful because it gave me this confidence. So I started my own DJ company because no one would hire me, and I DJ'd 500 bar mitzvahs. Show of hands, who in the room has seen me DJ a party in their time? Wow, that's pretty good. Whose bar mitzvah in the room have I actually DJ'd? I know there's at least 2. Wow, no joke. Yeah, those are great affairs, by the way. Yeah, thanks for the tip. The third time was when I got to McGill and I had to start making some money, and I ended up starting a T-shirt business in the Chabanel district. And actually, I didn't realize this, but Sal Parasuco is here tonight. And Sal, watching Sal and watching the greats of the Montreal and the Canadian schmata scene, the apparel business, gave me the confidence and gave me the inspiration to sell T-shirts. And so the question was, what is your personal philosophy? My personal philosophy is entrepreneurship is the greatest way for humans to self-actualize. Because no matter what problem you have, whether it's money, or it's survival, or it's passion, or it's finding your life's work, I think that entrepreneurship fundamentally is one of the greatest tools to do so. And I know maybe we won't talk about it, but one of the neat parts about my personal mission, which is to spread entrepreneurship, it's really interesting that it also aligns with Shopify's mission, which is to create more entrepreneurs. And we now have 3.5 million entrepreneurs on Shopify that have built, in some cases, billion-dollar companies using our software. That's a long answer to a short question, but...
Very inspiring.
Can we go back to the family stuff now?
Yeah. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you a little bit about community, because we're all very, very blessed to be part of this Jewish community in Montreal. Some of you may know Harley and I just moved back from Ottawa, and we chose to live in Montreal. And one of the things we love most about Montreal is this community. So can you tell us how your community has played a role in your success?
So we just moved back. I'll talk about community, but first I want to talk about Montreal for a second. So some of you know this story because I've been on a bit of a media tour since I moved here talking about Montreal, mostly because I feel like we have a moment in time where we can actually tell this story that we very intentionally chose to come to Montreal over places like Miami, where I grew up, South Florida, where I grew up, or New York City, where we spent a lot of our time. And part of the reason that we selected Montreal was for community. The other part was for culture. We think Montreal is one of the most cultural, interesting cities on the planet, but also the community is amazing. I had this moment actually last night, Monday night. Yeah, last night I was at synagogue with Jeremy and our other best friend Benji, and it was our first time ever going to the Shar Shemayim, and it's sitting there with me, Jeremy, and Benji. Again, these are my 2 childhood best friends, like brothers to me. And we were walking home up, what street is that? Churchill, I think? We were walking home up Churchill.
It's Thornhill.
Is it? Okay, sorry, I don't know. You're shaking your head, like you said yes. making me look bad.
Okay.
So we're walking up whatever street that is. Don't disagree with my wife. And I had this moment that reminded me that was the reason we moved back. That I was able to, I'm not especially religious. I obviously care deeply about the Jewish tradition, Jewish culture. But that moment of walking up the hill with Jeremy and Benji after shul, going to the house where you prepared this amazing dinner for breakfast, that was a special moment for me. It was a real reminder. The second thing I'll say is, should I say the Blue Zone thing? Lindsay and I disagree on this. So are you guys watching the Blue Zone documentary, any of you on Netflix? So there's a Netflix Blue. The Blue Zone is effectively, there are 5 places on the planet where there's a disproportionate amount of centenarians. How do you pronounce that? Centenarians. So people that live above the age of 100. And so this amazing writer, blogger, author went and studied these 5 blue zones. There's one in Spain.
There's one in Greece, Japan.
California, I think, is one.
Loma Linda.
And he's going through all the different tenets of a blue zone. Okay, so things like, community. They have lunches together. They're all, sunshine. They all have amazing.
They all have gardens.
They all have gardens. There's some really, the Venn diagram overlap of these blue zones is remarkable. One of the other things they talk about is a lot of them are on hills, so a lot of walking up and down the hill, which right now we are doing a ton of where we live. And I turned to Lindsay a couple nights ago and I said, I think Montreal is a blue zone for us. Actually, I said it's a blue zone, and her answer was no, it's a blue zone for us, not for everyone. So moving here was really important. But in terms of community, let's talk about that for a second. One of the things that, the last time I was on this stage for a CJA event was 2016. Some of you may have been here. Mitch Joel, who's a mentor of mine, a great friend, was sitting where you are, Linz, and he interviewed me. And we talked a bit about mentorship, and he asked me why mentorship was so important. And I said it was so important because the greatest thing about mentorship is you get to pick a little bit from different people. And throughout my life, a lot of the people that I've been able to select attributes and qualities from have been people in this community, people like Barry Pascal, who, if you know Barry, the most loving man in the whole world. He literally stopped his car in the middle of the street. I kid you not, last Sunday, middle of the street in Westmount, got out to give me a hug, blocking traffic, because that's what Barry Pascal does. He's full of heart, and if he cares about you, he will stop traffic for you. And that's the reason why I think community is so important. I believe there is, in terms of the mentors that I have, and now that you and I have, we can talk about the relationship mentors that we have a little bit later, but that's what community means to me. It's this platform of people who are basically lifting you up so you can be the best version of yourself. And when you're not the best version of yourself, they call you out. Some of these people call me and ask me why the stock price is down. I have no idea what to tell them. But for the most part, these are people that lift you up. And I think that if you can find a community, it doesn't necessarily just have to be a particular geographic community. If you find a community of entrepreneurs, online or offline, if you find a community of people that you live near or vacation together, I think that makes for a much richer, much more meaningful life. And I think you and I are blessed to have an incredible community around us.
I totally agree, and I love that. Okay, so...
How's this going so far? Yeah, all right, yeah. I needed the positive reinforcement. Yeah.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
You are doing great.
Okay, thank
you
you.
are a natural with a
thanks.
microphone. Please keep going. Okay, so I think a lot of you maybe know this story, but I thought maybe some of you would want to know, how did we meet?
You want to tell the story?
You tell the story.
I've been telling a lot of stories differently depending on who the audience is, but Lindsay and I met at Jewish speed dating, which is pretty much the same as a startup pitch competition. So the way it works is you have 10 dates, 6 minutes each over 1 hour. And it's double opt-in. So if you write the other person's name and they write your name, you get connected by the organizer. And Lindsay and I, we never went to speed dating previously. We've never gone to speed dating since, at least I haven't, maybe you have. But we both knew the organizer. It was a nice person that we really liked. We weren't even friendly with her, but we were friendly with her. She wasn't a close friend. And she said, hey, I'm a little short on Jewish. It was like Jewish med students, law students, and grad students. Like, it's totally eye-rolly. But
it's the stuff romance is made of.
Yeah, right. And so because it's double opt-in and Lindsay and I both understand game theory. We both wrote everybody's name to know who wrote our name, because that is the thing you do if you're really trying to gamify speed dating. And not to flex, but I was matched with 9 out of 10 girls. Except for one, which was Lindsay.
Which I swear I
Yeah.
wrote his name. I don't know what happened. Anyway, tell them
So
what happened.
I was so, and she really was the only one I wanted to go on a date with. So I was so offended by this that I sent her a note. I think I sent her an email saying, basically, WTF, what happened? And she explained that it must have been an administrative error.
Doesn't sound like something I'd say.
Yeah, anyway, somebody said something like that. In my mind, that's how I interpreted it.
Maybe.
And that was it. And then we started dating and moved to Toronto shortly thereafter to article at a law firm, which I absolutely hated. The worst year of my life was the year before I joined Shopify.
You were not happy.
I was not happy.
You had to wear a suit every day.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Did not like that.
But we fell in love that year in Toronto, and then we moved back to Ottawa. That's how we met.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. No kids. Free.
Life is good now, too, by the way. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about relationships, since we spoke about ours. So who are your relationship mentors? You mentioned mentorship earlier, and I know it's a really important part of, you know, who you are and how you develop. So tell us about your relationship mentors.
We talked about this question in advance, and I said I would ask so step back for a second. If you follow me on social media, you hear me talk about mentorship a lot, because I really believe it's this unfair advantage. It's basically the cheat codes, I think, to life, because you effectively get to choose from different people who are very, very successful in different aspects of their life. And the vast majority of people select mentors based on, frankly, professional mentors. That is traditionally how it's done. And I've had something like that in my life for many, many years. Some of you may know Phil Reimer. He's a lawyer in Ottawa, but Phil has been in my life since I was 16 years old as a very important mentor. He convinced me to go to law school. He convinced me to move to Ottawa. But Phil is not my relationship mentor. I love Phil, and if anyone of you know him, you should tell him this, what I'm about to say, but he's been married like 3 or 4 times. Like, he's not the guy you want to follow when it comes to relationships. In fact, you want to do the opposite of Phil.
Although he's in a very
He's in a
happy
great relationship now. He's
now.
very, very happy now. If you do tell him this, tell him that I made sure to include that.
We love Lori.
We love Lori. She's amazing. But we have had people in our life that have come in, and Lindsay and I, after meeting with them or having dinner with them, we would say to each other something was special about the way they interacted together. A small gesture, the way they held hands, the way they engaged with each other, their inside jokes together. And we've had a bunch of these in our lives that have been really wonderful. You know, most recently we got a chance to meet Kalen Ravinescu and his wife Elaine, and watching them interact with each other. Do you guys know Kalen? He's an amazing entrepreneur, but more importantly, he's an incredible husband, like incredible. And no matter what he's doing, no matter how he's hustling, where he's traveling, his wife is the most important person in his life, full stop. And so we don't necessarily go and tell these people they're relationship mentors, although sometimes we do and say, we really admire the relationship that you've been able to architect. We'd love to learn what you do. And we've had a bunch of those in our lives over the last couple of years.
Speaking of relationships.
Can I ask you a question at all, ever, or no? This could just be, yeah.
Who do you usually ask Jim Cramer questions when he's
That's true.
interviewing
Good point.
you? No, but it's okay. I'll play ball. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. I'll ask you that later. Let's see let's see how nice you are to me.
I think I'm being pretty nice. Okay, so speaking of relationships, you have a very special relationship with your close friends. In fact, they're like brothers to you. Some of them are here tonight. And you've been friends with them since you were a young child. So I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about them.
Yeah. I think one of the wonderful things about coming back to Montreal is I love my parents. I love you guys, so, and whatever. You know I love you. But one of the special things for me is that for the last 20 years, I've had a long-distance relationship with my best friends. And that kind of sucked. And part of it is that one of the things I think, if you have a tribe, if you have your close-knit crew, and actually in our crew, we've known each other for a very, very long time. And so because of that, not only have we come up together, but all throughout, there's this great metaphor, which is the metaphor of boxes. Okay, so what happens effectively is we all start at the bottom of the box. And over time, we learn skills and tactics and experiences. We get to the top of the box. And at the top of the box, that's where you feel swagger. You feel confident. You know exactly what you're doing. And most people stay at the top of that box. But every now and then, someone reaches down from a box on top and pulls you into this next box where, once again, you're at the bottom of the new box. At the bottom of the new box, you're insecure, you're unsure, you're not, there's no swagger there. And for me and for our special group of friends, we've always reached down to the boxes underneath where our friends are to pull them to the next box. And that, I think, is a very special thing. And I don't know if that's unique to Montreal or unique to the Jewish community. But I think if you have that, you should cherish that, because I wouldn't trade that. I mean, we literally moved our family to a new city because we didn't want to have a long-distance relationship with our tribe, with our best friends. And we hold each other accountable. They make fun of me in a way that no one on the planet makes fun of me. They have zero respect for any prestige that I may have whatsoever. And I need that. I need to feel that way, but I also need to feel like, you know, when things are going well, we celebrate together. And when things are really rough, we mourn together. But we do it together all the time, and I love you guys, so yeah.
I love you guys too. You're also very close with your family. We're lucky that some of our family members are here tonight, and especially with your grandparents, who were very, very lucky. They're 90 years old, actually 91 as of the other day. So tell us about your grandparents, and why are they so special to you?
Yeah, so my maternal grandparents are still alive, which is amazing. My mother's parents are still alive. But more importantly, in many ways, they are another set of relationship role models. They go on drives together for no other reason than because they think the cheese is better south of the border than it is in, like, Costco in Montreal.
Presidente Brie, in case anyone's wondering.
I mean, we know what they go for drives together to Saint-Sever and literally get off at exit 60 and turn around and come home just to spend the time in the car. They have a little convertible they drive together at 90 years old. Like, it's an unbelievable thing. They have this joie de vivre and this zest for life that is unlike anything I've ever seen anywhere. They have a great bottle of wine almost every night together. They go for amazing dinners almost every night together. They have rituals that they continue to do, and part of it is they are also very intentional. My grandfather was a peddler. Do you guys know what that term? Peddler? Yeah, of course you do. Jewish community. He was a peddler his whole life. He would go to Peerless and go meet Alvin Siegel and buy suits, put them in his trunk, and then drive to a place called Valleyfield, which is, I don't know if you know where Valleyfield is, it's out there somewhere, and he would sell suits from Alvin Siegel at the trunk of his car. And he would put chains on his tires so he can get there in the middle of these snowstorms. And he decided he was going to work so damn hard until the age of 55, 60, when he was 60 years old, until at that point he would stop working and enjoy his life. And everything was, and you know, they never lived lavishly, but they always lived in a way that felt incredibly intentional. And we love them, and we're very lucky to have them in our lives and spend time with them.
Yes, they are very special people. I love spending time with them also. By the way, I didn't tell you this. True story. They came by today just to drop off some chopped liver.
Of course they did.
I think Goldie made it. So, or maybe it was Brad. I don't know which one of them made it.
That totally lines up.
It was very sweet of them. And that they didn't come in or anything. They just came and dropped off the chopped liver. They were on their way to Costco.
We don't want to bother you. We just want to drop off chopped liver. You're busy. We know.
They're very special.
He does call me every time he hears me on CNBC to tell me if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And sometimes in the middle of a meeting with a lot of people, and I pick up his call and say, Zadie, what's up? He says, you know, they're not very nice to you today on CNBC. As if I can do something about that.
Well, he's very, very protective of you,
I know.
obviously. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
So you recently started a podcast. Maybe you guys have heard about it. It's called Big Shot. You should all go listen to it. It's on Spotify and YouTube.
And Apple Music.
And Apple Music. Where else can we find the podcast?
That's it. I just want to be,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah,
So,
we just booked our first, we're doing season, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
please.
season 1 just wrapped. We did the Canadian tour. Season 2, we're starting in the US in 4 weeks from now. And it's just banger after banger. It's unbelievable. You guys are going to love it. It's so cool.
well, and let me just say, I'm personally invested in this podcast as well because Harley loves doing the podcast. And I've seen, I heard about it being born. He talked about it for years. And now to actually see it happening is really remarkable.
Actually, to your credit, we were lucky to spend most winter vacations on the beach in Turks, and David Siegel and I, who's one of the closest.
That's Harley's one of his besties, David Siegel.
Founder of David's Tea. We go to the beach together, and like most people do on the beach, we write business plans. And one business, and if a business plan comes up enough times, we actually commercialize it. And we've had some, we're trying to disrupt right now. You guys know Duraflame? We're we have a business plan and actually a prototype for a disruption of Duraflame. I don't think it's ever gonna see the light of day. We also started Fire Belly Tea together. But one of the ideas we kept having was, why is there no podcast about the stories of the greatest Jewish entrepreneurs? And we talk about people like Izzy Sharp and John Wiener and Eddie Sunshine and Charles Bronfman and Aldo all the time. And we kind of know their stories from Wikipedia, but why are they not telling their stories? And so,
Well, and you admire them the way a lot of, for example, young boys admire hockey players.
well, that's right. Yeah. In fact, if I had to sort of create a metaphorical teenage bedroom and put posters up on the wall, it would not be sports figures and it would not be rappers or musicians or actors.
It'd be Eddie Sunshine.
It'd be Eddie's fucking Sunshine. Yeah. And if you know the Eddie Sunshine episode, it's amazing. The guy's full. Eddie Sunshine grew up in Bergen-Belsen. Eddie Sunshine grew up in Bergen-Belsen and then came to Canada through Halifax to London, Ontario. His father had a couple diamonds hidden in his boot, in the sole of his boot. And then he created effectively what became the REIT model, the Real Estate Investment Trust. He's basically the inventor of the Real Estate Investment Trust concept. And his father said, Eddie, that's a good business. You buy real estate, you don't have to pay for it yourself. Eddie, that's a good business. And that's how we started it. That's my Eddie's father impression. But yeah, those are my heroes. Those are the people. I stand on the shoulders of those people. Sorry, I don't know what the question was, but yeah.
Well, it was just where did the idea come from and why did you want to do it?
The idea came from the idea. It's a selfish pursuit. The fact that anyone even listens to it. I sent Lindsay the chart because how you do anything is how you do everything. I do look at the charts.
You love stats.
And we were the #1 entrepreneurship business podcast in Israel for the last 3 weeks, which is insane, right? Thank you. So I sent that to Lindsay, and it felt really good. You get the dopamine hits. But if nobody listened to Big Shot, I would still do it. Because I think that is my version. We don't go to the bar on Sundays. We're not really a group of friends that watches sports together and drinks beer. We want to sit down and listen to people that are inspiring to us, the people that teach us how to be better versions of ourselves, that change industries. And that's why we started it. And it's a total passion project.
I can totally picture you and David, when you're old, going and sitting at the deli together and eating smoked meat and, just kibitzing with each other, just like the people that you talk to on your podcast.
We should be so lucky to be able to do that one day. Yeah.
Okay, so you all may have noticed Harley has a bit of a uniform. He's kind of wearing it right now. So tell us, why do you wear a black T-shirt every day? Of all the things that you could wear, why black T-shirts?
Cognitive load. I don't think I can I think I could only make a certain number of decisions on a daily basis. And I was very fortunate. James Purse, the brand, but also the person, makes me custom black T-shirts. What a flex that is. And I can just grab a black T-shirt and grab a pair of James Purse pants, and more recently a pair of triple stitch shoes and I don't have to think about it. And I think the more you can actually automate your life on things that just don't matter. Like if I wore a jacket, I mean, Kaplan, you look great, like in that jacket, white shirt, cool sneakers. Like you look better than I do. I get that. But do you look 10% better, 20% better? Maybe like if you looked 100% better, I'd probably look as good as you. But I think you look 40% better than me. And that 40% output is not worth my cognitive load every single morning for me. And that's why I wear a black t-shirt. I also think there's something about this generation of entrepreneurs where we went to a bat mitzvah on Friday night, and I wore a hat, and I walk in, the first person I see is Charles Bronfman, and he says, "Take off that fucking hat." I said, "Charles, it's part of my look." Anyways, an hour later, he was wearing my hat. So I think I can get away with it maybe because of my age.
He admired the hat. A lot of people did, actually. That's another one of your signature looks, but that's dressy Harley.
That's dressy me, yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned James Purse. Any other stores that you like to shop at?
Can I tell us a quick story? Last Thursday at the Ben Student School of Retail, I gave a talk with Aldo, who's brilliant, amazing. He's Aldo, he's the man. And the interviewer from KPMG or Deloitte asked a question. He said, I'm curious, what are your favorite retail? I know you said don't talk about retail, but I can't help myself. He says, what are your favorite retail experiences? And I was thinking to myself, I want to say something that Aldo's going to like. And maybe Aldo was thinking he's going to say something I want to like. And so we blurred at the same time. I said Cucinelli, and he said Kith, which is amazing because like Kith is something that I would wear, and Cucinelli is something that he would wear. But actually, I think the best brands out there, the brands that I admire most, it's less about necessarily the price point or the brand of it. Everything is unbranded that I'm wearing. It's more about like, no one thinks about black t-shirts more than James Purse. James Purse is obsessed with black t-shirts. He's also obsessed with when you walk into the store, every single show of hands, you've been to James Purse stores? Okay, a bunch of you have. When you walk in the store, it is a different feeling. You don't have to see any signs. You know it's a James Purse store. Why? Because the floorboards are a particular Pantone color that only he has. And the smell is from a scent that only he has. And the music is a playlist that he curates himself. I think those are the brands that I think are most interesting. And that doesn't have to be expensive like James Purse. Gymshark, for example, Ben Francis, who has become someone Lindsay and I have known for a long time, who built this billion-dollar brand at Gymshark. Also intentional. You walk into a Gymshark store, you're not sure if it's a gym or a retail concept. And I think the companies that know themselves well actually have real authenticity. Whereas sometimes you walk into a random kitchenware store and there's a DJ in there and it feels artificial because that's not what their brand is about. So the brands that I admire most are the ones that are truly authentic to their core mission.
Okay. So switching gears a little bit, this is a really personal question. What is something that no one knows about you? Maybe not even me.
What do you think? What is something that you know about me that nobody else does?
I want you to take a crack at it.
Well, I've been sharing this more regularly, so maybe some people have heard this, but I've become a lot more vocal about anxiety lately. Something that I thought was a weakness, something that I thought would make me seem like I'm not, a full version of myself. I've had anxiety most of my life. I still do. I'm now trying to find ways to adjust that anxiety with things like meditation and walks and a lot of the work you and I do. That's one. You and I see a couples therapist. That's something that most people don't know. We've been seeing a couples therapist for quite some time. And actually hope it's okay that I share this. Okay. Shit.
Obviously. If I'm a therapist and it's not okay that you say that?
We've been seeing a couples therapist for 5 or 6 years, and our philosophy around it is same way about it going to the gym. You don't go to the gym when you should. You go to the gym before you should. You go to the gym when you don't really have to go to the gym. And I think we're trying to build up resiliency and create tools and tricks and tactics in our own marriage. And so we've been going to a couples therapists together for a very, very long time. What else? You actually found something in my desk. We were in my office earlier, and she opens the drawer, and I had hairspray there. She's like, "You keep hairspray in your desk drawer?" And I said, "You're damn right I do." And that's something that nobody knows. So I keep hairspray in my office drawer.
If anyone here has ever seen the movie When Harry Met Sally, it reminded me of that scene when she takes the hairspray out and she sprays her hair. I don't know
that scene. Yeah.
It's at the beginning of the movie. It's before you make me change it to a
I
different
hate that movie. Yeah. By the way, Sandy's saying it's 5 minutes until we're going to open up for questions, and we have some mics. And so if you guys have some questions, cool. Otherwise, we can keep going. But if you have questions, we'll open up in 5 minutes.
Well, another thing people might not know about you is that you know all the lyrics for "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina."
I do. My father
Literally
taught me
no
that.
other lyrics at all to any song except that one.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know why I know that. Thanks, Dad. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dad. Dad, you don't have a microphone. Enough.
Okay, so should we keep going? We're not opening it up yet, eh?
Let's go a few more, and then we'll open
Okay.
up. Yeah.
So, how do you relax and unwind? And spoiler alert, I know this is very hard. You kind of don't. But how do you try to relax and unwind?
I think the definition of introvert versus extrovert is basically, am I getting this right? Is basically how you relax. Like some people relax by themselves. They're typically more in the introvert spectrum versus the people who relax around other people or on the more the extrovert.
It's like where you get your energy
Where you get your energy from. So I get my energy from people, but I also relax around people. And I find that's the most, that's the only way I relax. I'm a bit high strung, I don't know if you've noticed that.
No.
Okay. So
no
sweet.
Idea.
So yeah, I'm not good at the sort of relaxing thing. That's not something I really do. But I do believe in, you've heard this 1,000 times, so don't roll your eyes, but the concept of ikigai, right? Do you guys know that concept? It's a Japanese concept, which is effectively life's work. And we were talking about earlier, like my grandfather selling eggs at the farmer's market, the Jean Talon market. That was not life's work stuff for him. That was survival stuff for him. And I know a number of you in the room, many of you in the room are doing your life's work, meaning the thing you are doing day to day is something you love, it's something the world values, it's something that you get paid for, and it's something that you actually believe has great passion. Whether you call it life's work or you call it ikigai, I think we are the first generation, like my vintage is the first vintage of Jewish North Americans, with very few exceptions, who actually can spend their life doing their life's work. And actually, if you can find your life's work early on, and for me, that was storytelling, even if you think about DJing, it was all storytelling ultimately. The sooner you find it, the sooner you actually can sharpen that point and do that the rest of your life and become eventually world class at that sort of thing. And so it's not that I don't like to relax, as you know, it's just that I don't know. I don't feel I need to relax, I guess, if that makes any sense.
You're definitely someone with a lot of energy, and you put your whole heart and soul into everything that you do. So I appreciate that.
I love you.
Love you. Okay, should we do one more? Okay. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Right here. You're all sitting at the Shopify office. Shopify is very much my life's work. I've spent more than a third of my life here. I'm going on 15 years. I'm 39 years old. And I really hope in 10 years from now I can be on stage with you, with our parents in the audience and my best friends over there, and at Shopify. I don't have a 10, this is not a means to an end for me. This is the journey, and I want to continue this journey. I have no plans of stopping anytime soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a microphone? Okay. You can ask anything you want to Lindsay or me, or my dad, or my best friends.
Question is for you. Actually, it does involve one of your best friends. Last time we met, I was DJing Ben's wedding.
Wow, Ben Crudo.
Yeah.
Wow, his wife's right over there. There's Gabby. Yeah.
So
How'd they tip? They tip well? Yeah, good.
I don't.
Okay, I got you after this.
But you actually give me the Ashkenazi version of the Aura because I was about.
Oh, I did the 1945 for sure. Paul Chakra's classic.
Classics.
Everyone knows that.
But the question is, today, do you still practice the DJing? And at the same time, how do you think when you're practicing DJing that, shall I be with my family? Shall I take care of business? Or do you program this within your calendar, as you mentioned before? Second part of the question, sorry. When is your next gig? for the federation.
So, what was the last DJ gig I did? Do you remember what it was? It was Bailey's. It was at Bailey's school. I DJ.
Wow.
I DJ'd my daughter's father-daughter dance, and so I'm trying to, this wasn't planned, right? This question wasn't planned, but that is exactly the proxy of what I'm trying to cultivate in my life. That I can do something like DJing that I love to do. And I'm sure you're a much better DJ than I am. I'm not that great at it, but I love doing it. And I did it, and there's a photo that I sent you of my daughter on my shoulders while I was DJing. That's fucking cool. And that's how I want to live my life. And if I can find more opportunities to do those things where everyone there's this sort of narrative out there that like there's work-life balance, that these work and life are two different things. And I reject that. I believe you can incorporate all of it into one beautiful backpack of life. And the way that I try to do that is Saturday, I was in the office here on Saturday. I didn't want to be, but I had some things that had to be done. And so I came in for a couple of hours, and then I went home and spent time with my family. I don't have any next gigs, but if anyone here, maybe Barry, you got a gig for me. My rate's gone up since I DJ'd your son's bar mitzvah. What year was the bar mitzvah, by the way? Do you know? What's that? Wow, amazing. Cool. Hold on, I'll give you a microphone because we're recording this.
My question is around delegation. Like, how would you delegate certain jobs, like from low risk to high risk? And would you delegate Shopify? Something that you take very personally, and what type of person would it be, like a copy of yourself, or would it, like, what would you look for in delegating Shopify if you were able to do that?
I've noticed recently that a bunch of my peers that run companies around the same size, so like public companies around the same size as Shopify, a lot of companies, what happens to the leaders as they stay with the company long term, they end up becoming very well-rounded objects. They're very, very good at a lot of different things. And I think those are very good companies. I mean, I think Google is a company like that. Google is much bigger than Shopify, of course, but I know all the leaders there. They're all like really well-rounded, and that's just not our style. Here we are very, very T-shaped, meaning we can do some things across the board, but we all go deep on one sort of thing. And for me, that's storytelling internally and externally, whether it's investors or it's media or it's our merchants or partners. For Toby, it's coding, it's product and R&D, actually writing software, writing code. I was chief operating officer of Shopify between 2016 and 2020. And when I was given the role of chief operating officer by the board and from Toby, it was a huge honor. I mean, Shopify was a publicly traded company. We probably had a market cap of $5 billion. It's a big deal. And I took that seriously. I read every book. I had mentors, people like Sheryl Sandberg, who I'd call and ask questions to, or Keith Rabois at Square, what I thought were the best COOs on the planet. And over time, I realized that I was not a very good COO. And it took me 4 years to gain the courage to go back to Toby and the board and my team and to say, this is not the right, I will never be the world's greatest COO. And today we have a COO, his name is Kaz, who's truly, I think, the greatest chief operating officer in technology. He lives in the details, and I don't. And I think one of the things that gets really nice as you get older is that you begin to become a lot more comfortable with being self-aware in that way. And as you become more self-aware, you can say, this is not for me, but this other thing right here, man, one day I can be the best in the world at that. And so when it comes to delegation, I think about what are the skill sets that I have that I think that I like high leverage, potential high risk, but also high output and high returns. Those things I should be doing. For everything else, I'm going to try to find the best people on the planet. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a sort of double barrel question.
Sure. Yeah.
Number one, is there anything that scares you? And is there anything that angers you?
Unfortunately, there is in both ways. Well, what angers me first is I hate waste. I hate inefficiency. Ask Lindsay what I'm like at a lineup anywhere. I cannot line
Not
up.
good.
I can't line up. I'm destroyed by it. I will do anything possible to not have to wait in a line. In some cases, you go to Disney World and there's like a whole special thing, But most places you actually wait in line. That angers me a great deal. I hate that. what also angers me is I don't want to get political here, but I know some of the best and brightest people in Canada, and I wish some of them would consider a run for leadership politically, and I don't think they're going to. One of the things that we talk about is we have a friend that went to law school with Obama, and he talks about at Harvard Law. He was in a small group. His name is Dan Goldberg. Is his name? Our friend. He's the CEO of Telesat, and when Barack was in law school, he was the man. He was 4 years older than everybody else. Every girl wanted to date him. Every teacher wanted to hang out with him. Every student wanted to play basketball with him. And Dan, this is now a famous story that Dan tells, once said, Barack, what are you going to do after, for the rest of your life? And he said, there's only one job for me. It's to be the president of the United States. And I don't think we have that in the same way in Canada. And I wish we had more ambition around political success. In terms of what scares me, something I'm working on, and we work on this together, is I think I still have a scarcity mindset. I don't think I live in an abundance mindset. I still don't think I'm doing enough, have made enough. I don't think Shopify is good enough. And I think that's a blessing and a curse. It creates a lot of great ambition, but it also means that I can't really relax very much. And so I try to channel it however I can, and Lindsay and our family does a good job of sort of helping me with that. But I strive to have a mindset of abundance one day, and I don't have that. And maybe that's multi-generational, actually. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
What does leaving a legacy mean for you?
Whew. I don't know. I don't know yet what that means. The way that we think about our own community giving, for example, is very, very personal. So Lindsay and I are just coming into this point where we're thinking about our family foundation and how we donate money and how we give back to the community. And so far, what we've been doing is finding things that we think suck and trying to make them better. So we've been living in Ottawa for 15 years. Or I was in 20 years, she was in for 15 years. And there was this rabbi that we loved. His name is Rabbi Chaim Bayarsky, amazing man. When I was in law school, he would come every Friday to wrap his tefillin on me. And I'm not religious again, but I love that he did that. In fact, I would make him, he said, let's go to a quiet room. And I was like, no, we're doing the middle of the fucking law school so everybody can see us. We did. And all these other Jews came, and some of them wanted to go to the room, but I want to in the middle of the law school. I want to make a statement about it. But we used to go to his house on Friday nights for Shabbos dinner, and there'd be students everywhere sitting on the couches and on the stairs. And we told him at that point, this is actually before Lindsay and I even started dating, I said to him, I was like, if ever we can help you build a real congregation, we'd love to do so. And in 2018, Lindsay and I called him and said, we're ready to buy you a building. And the Finkelstein Jewish Center will be built this coming year. And that's a legacy for us.
Okay, I have a quick question for you. Technology is constantly evolving, so things like robots, connectivity, AI. How do you see that playing a role in our personal and our business lives in the future?
Back to the conversation I had with Aldo. On stage, I asked Aldo what he thought about AI, and Aldo said, without skipping a beat, it's perfect. He said, AI is like having a best friend. And I mean, obviously he didn't mean that from the emotional perspective, but he meant it from like, I think so from an entrepreneurship perspective, let me give you a very concrete example. Most people, like Sal Parasuco, he was great at making clothing. He also understood marketing and merchandising and branding. The vast majority of people on Shopify, they're not really good at all those things. Maybe they're good at making one particular t-shirt, or they're good at making one particular piece of technology, or they're good at making sneakers. But they don't know how to write product descriptions. They're not good at product photography. They don't really know how to merchandise products or create discounting, for example, or how to do promotions. But that is exactly where AI can play a huge role. We built something called Shopify Magic, which basically is layered across the whole product. So today, on Shopify, if you're building a brand new business and you go to the product description page, you can upload your product photography. You can give a couple different keywords or prompts, and Shopify Magic will scroll every SEO document ever written, will scroll pretty much everything that it can find from an information perspective, and it will pre-write you a high-converting product description. That was something that just wasn't possible. And I think you can do that across a lot of different vectors. Or, hey, did you know that your particular shop is getting a disproportionate amount of traffic from Pinterest? You should activate the Pinterest channel. Having this sidekick along, I think, will be really, really great. But I'm a I'm a card-carrying technology optimist. I think it's only going to make things better. I made my friend Jeff here a pour-over coffee in my office right before this, which is basically a robotic pour-over. The pour-over coffee is objectively the tastiest coffee, but it takes 12 minutes to do, and I don't have the patience. The fact that there's now a little arm that goes like this, and it knows exactly what to do perfectly, I'm now going to have better coffee because of that, and I think that's wonderful.
Hi. If you can share with us a moment where you ever felt like you want to break, and most importantly, what gave you the courage to get past it, continue, particularly in business?
We talked a little bit about this, but 2008 was the worst year, one of the worst years of my life. I was articling in Toronto at a law firm, and the only saving grace of the whole thing was that Lindsay was there with me every single weekend. She was living in in Ottawa, and she would drive into Toronto every single weekend. I had zero appetite for any type of ambition or passion. I wasn't thinking about life's work or ikigai. If you kind of think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the pinnacle at the top of that hierarchy is self-actualization, which for me means real creativity. And I don't think you can be really creative if the things below that are not in place. Security, safety, belonging, all those different attributes. And that year I didn't have any of those things. And because of that, there was no way that I could have done it. And I remember going to tell Lindsay that I'm going to join Toby and Daniel and Cody, who were we were sort of the four musketeers of Shopify. I'm going to join these guys, and we're going to move to Ottawa. And she said, let's fucking go. And we did that. So I think having the support system in your life, whether it's your partner, your wife, your spouse, or your best friends, or your family, that's the way to get through that. That's the only way. I think, trying to slog it through is it's going to be very difficult. Oh my God.
So I had a question for Lindsay. Lindsay, what is your secret to putting up with Harley?
I'm so glad you asked that, Jeremy.
Did you guys talk about this in advance?
No. So, just like any other couple, we have conflict sometimes. We have a lot of good times, and sometimes we have things that are more challenging. And I think that that's normal, right? Any couple will tell you, like, we have ups and downs. I think the key to dealing with you is recognizing where your strengths are and recognizing where some of your weaknesses might be. And so I use a strengths-based approach, and I really try to just focus on what you're really, really good at. And when there's things I don't like, I tell you. And actually, I think that that's a really important part of it, actually, is I'm not just going to keep my mouth shut and swallow everything. I'm going to say something when something bothers me. And as annoying as that may be, it's absolutely necessary. Did that answer your question?
One more question? Yeah.
Good. So you talked about ikigai and the whole alignment between cultivating what you like and what you're good at. And it seems like, as I listen to you talk, you found that later, to step down from COO and go really deep on communication, because that's where you really, really nailed it and kind of narrowed in. Tips for cultivating that alignment, or any thoughts on kind of finding that?
I'm going to steal this. I think it's Bill Gates who said this, but if you remember what you did when you were bored between the ages of, I think it was 12 and 16, that's probably what you should do the rest of your life. And I love that. I believe that to be true. And when I look at the people that in my life that are the most successful, they're doing that. I mean, they have found a way to commercialize the thing they did between 12 and 16. And for me, at 12 to 16, I was DJing bar mitzvahs. I was selling hat presses and T-shirts. I was doing all these different things. But a lot of it was, now that I sort of spend time thinking about it, it was a lot about communication. It was storytelling. It was creating energy. It was trying to make people around me better and inspiring them to take their own risks and stuff. And so I think that's really important. I think the key, though, is talking about those boxes analogy again, when you're at the top of the box you're in, it feels amazing. You feel like you know everything, you're comfortable, you have swagger, the anxiety is reduced, but all the magic happens on that next box. And the problem with that next box is that first couple of months or even years in the next box, when you're at the bottom of the next box, it feels like shit. But if you have people around you who believe in you and keep reaching down to bring you up to the top of the next box, you keep traversing these different boxes, and eventually you end up in Ikigai or life's work land or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's the magic place. So yeah, thank you for that question. I think we have to wrap now.
Well, can this guy tell a story or what?
Thank you for this. This was fun and weird and amazing, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you joining us here. And I hope we do this again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you to my beautiful wife, Lindsay, for these amazing questions. Oh, actually, one last thing. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. Do you know how this happened? What happened was we were at a party dancing. We had been drinking a little bit. It was a friend's party. And Lindsay Rothstein pulled up and said, I want to talk to you two for a second. And she said, I'd love you guys to speak at an event. Or I think she said she would love me to speak. And I said, the only way I'll do it is if Lindsay, my wife, interviews me. And Lindsay Rothstein closed this deal at 11 o'clock at night in Ivory. So you are the hustler of this community, and you do an amazing job at it. So thank you.
Okay, just one more minute. Harley, Lindsay, on behalf of CJA, the JCC, and the network, I want to thank you both for putting together this incredible event, as well as to thank Shopify for hosting this here at your offices. I think I can safely say that everyone here is inspired by all that you have accomplished. I still cannot believe that hiring you to DJ my bar mitzvah back in 2004 helped propel you to such success. 2004. Professional accomplishments aside, it is your continued support and contributions to our community that inspire me the most and make you a perfect ambassador for what CJA represents. CJA continues to be the only organization with the mandate to look after every single member of our community. While CJA is there for each member of the community on a personal level, many do not realize that CJA also has an arm called the PME, Pro Montreal Entrepreneurs, which is there to support entrepreneurs with numerous services including funding, business plan feedback, a network of mentors and investors, and referrals on accessing alternative funding sources. And it's with the help of ambassadors like yourself that they continue to be able to do so. Before we go, we'd like to thank you both with a small token of appreciation for putting together this event and wish you a happy and healthy new year. Great job, guys.
Thanks, Gary.